This is going to be an easy one. This is going to be an easy one. There's no problem this morning. Oh, my goodness me. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to another edition, a very, very challenging and trying edition of Matchday Reloaded. Where do you even start, right? Where do you start? I mean, I don't know about you. I've gone through the gambit of emotions over the last 12 hours or so, from after the game. I mean, I don't even want to say the scoreline out loud, but you know what? You can't hide from it, and that's important. That we shouldn't do that today. Can't hide from yesterday. It happened. Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0, and my emotions have gone like this. I can't even do it. They've gone like that. There you go. They've gone like that over the last 12 hours or so. Because immediately after the game and during and once it's over, you're again, it wasn't even anger yesterday. It got to the point, it got so bad, it was like the Simpsons meme, stop it, he's already dead. It felt like that yesterday. And I wasn't, as it got worse and worse, I wasn't even angry. I was so disappointed with a group of players that we've really come to like. I mean, last season when you go to Anfield and you lose, 4-0, and it wasn't a likable group of players. Everyone was saying, I don't even like this group of players. And this season I was totally different. We do like this team. We like these players. 7 days prior, we're celebrating, we're euphoric about this group of players and that they had won Manchester United's first trophy in 6 years. So to see a group of players that you like put in a performance that they did yesterday, it's even more disappointing, because you do know that they're better than that, and you do know that ultimately they gave up. They stopped trying. They went, particularly after that second goal, 2-0 down, and they just went, we can't be bothered anymore. We've played a lot of games recently and we're tired and we just don't want to put up the fight anymore. And that is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. As Eric Ten Hag said, it's unprofessional. Because even when you lose, there's an element of professionalism in the way that you lose. Even if you're not the better team on the day, you still put in a fight. You don't give up. You play to the end. This isn't FIFA. You can't quit after 50 minutes. You can't just forfeit game. Because make no mistake, yesterday, after the second goal went in, if this was a game of FIFA, they'd have hit the start button, gone to menu, forfeit game 3-0. They'd have done that yesterday. And so the game finishes, and you're disappointed, you're angry, you're upset, you're annoyed, your phone's going off, and all of these people on social media that have been very quiet over the last few weeks. If anything, that's somewhat of a backhanded compliment to how well we have been doing recently, right? Is the amount of people that revel in our misfortune, and that won't change. That's fine. But then afterwards, and I think that's what the prevailing message, I hope, is this morning and into the games this week and next, and as we continue on this season, is that it's important to take a step back. It's important not to be totally reactive. I mean, the initial gut feelings that you have are completely justified, and they're right. You're right to be upset. You're right to be disappointed. You're right to be furious. But when you do take a step back, you say to yourself, okay, what is our current situation right now? And you say, okay, we're still third in the Premier League. And as we went into that game yesterday, we were 10 points ahead of Liverpool. We're still 7 points. Our destiny, our future is well and truly in our own hands. And we did win a trophy 7 days prior, our first in 6 years. This season can still be absolutely a success. And no doubt about it. If we qualify for the top 4 for the Champions League, and we get new owners, at the end of the season, we could be looking at a situation where it's top 4, we won a trophy. Who knows what's going to happen with the FA Cup? We're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and the field is fairly open in that one. Europa League again, who knows what happened in that? But even if it was just Carabao Cup in the top 4, remove those other 2 competitions, before, at the beginning of the season, God, my goodness me, would have ripped your hands off, your arms off, whatever metaphor you want to use for that. So it's not to excuse yesterday, because yesterday's inexcusable, but at the same time, and it's not the message you want to hear the day after, but you got to move on, and you got to just go again, and that's ultimately what we have to do. The concern for me is that I thought we were past all of this. I felt that the Manchester United collapse, we had almost become accustomed to it, really. Last season and in seasons prior, and even at the beginning of this season, right? Whether it's Brentford, whether it's Man City, that whole, you go 1-0 down and then just bang, completely collapse. I mean, you think back to even when we played Aston Villa at Villa Park, right? They went 1-0 up. We somehow managed to equalise, and then beginning of the second half, just again, slow start, early goal, done, and then we just gave up. We've given up. But I thought we were past it. I thought the mentality that Erik ten Hag had put into these players, and instilled into these players, they were almost incapable of that anymore. They had some professional pride and ego, and again, they didn't show that yesterday. They didn't, and ultimately, this is a result. This is a performance that we're going to have to live with for forever. This is a result that's going to live on a t-shirt. People will always show that picture of the scoreboard at Anfield in the same way that we do to Arsenal fans when it's 8-2 or whatever. We're always going to have to live with that. And that's the disappointing thing as well, is that it's the fans that are constantly going to have to live with that, and it's the fans that it really hurts. And I truly hope, and I don't know if it does, but I truly hope that it hurts the players as much as it does us. Because again, when they go through the rest of their days in a career, are they ever going to be shown those pictures of the 7-0 of the scoreboard at Anfield? I don't know. We are, and we're going to have to deal with it. Now again, what I will say is, come the end of the season, if Liverpool do not win a trophy and Liverpool do not qualify for the top four, even though I do think they will qualify for the top four at this point, considering the people surrounding them, but if they don't, and they don't win a trophy, but we do qualify for the top four and we do win a trophy, that would be the thing you would say to the players, wouldn't it? You would say, make sure that it counts for nothing at this point, because you can't go back and change it now. What you can change is your future performances. And what you can do is you can make sure that, again, that never happens again. But frankly, the fact that it's happened yesterday is already too many times. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I've seen people try and excuse it by saying, it's because we're playing so many games. Okay, if we had lost 2-0 or 3-0, even 4-0, you'd have said, well, we're just completely shattered. And even, to be honest, even if they beat us 3 or 4-0 and you could tell that those players just were tired and exhausted out there, the players weren't running yesterday because they were tired. They weren't running because they couldn't be bothered. They weren't putting in tackles yesterday because they couldn't be bothered. It really had nothing to do with fatigue. And yeah, well, I think we were carrying a few injuries, and yeah, we're fighting on four fronts and all that kind of stuff, but They just gave up. Let's be brutally honest here. They just stopped trying. And that is pathetic. That is absolutely shameful. There's no words to describe it. I mean, obviously, this morning, as we always do throughout the show, we'll go through individual players. Honestly, it's almost difficult, we will talk about individuals, but it's difficult to talk about individuals because to a man, they were appalling. Absolutely appalling. Every single position, even the people that came on, offered nothing. And it's almost a difficult one to actually provide some kind of analysis, isn't it? Because it's not even professional football, because you see people that are professionals in the lower leagues, League 2, League 1, even those people that in the conference that are professional because they're a big team, they don't give up, let alone a Premier League game at Anfield. And you stop trying, and it's not the first time you did it. If it was the first time this had ever happened, you would say, well, what was that? I don't know what that was. I think the scary thing about it is that we have seen this before. And that's what really makes you worried. You go, we have seen this. We've seen this happen. We've seen this collapse. And the only thing you can do is just, again, it's very difficult to try and sum it up, honestly. I'll see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. Again, one thing I will say, look, obviously, rival fans as well, we have to hold this, and they're going to be saying all of those stuff at us. Okay, we'll take it. I think some of it's very, very, very ironic where it's coming from. I've seen Spurs fans trying to give a shit. And at the same time, I'll go, wait a minute, Spurs. You still have yet to win that trophy. We're still above you in the league. And again, that's the important thing when it comes to this. Again, the Liverpool fans will bang, bang, bang. And I'm sure people will be watching it this morning. I will say to you then, Liverpool, make it count for the remainder of the season, because, oh my goodness, if you don't make it count, and if you try and at the end of the season, if you don't qualify for the top 4 or you don't win a trophy and it's for nothing, this record victory is for nothing, the pressure's on you now. You've got to make it count. You've got to spur yourself on, because, oh my goodness, if you don't, people will be there and they'll be waiting. No doubt about it. But at the same time, as I said, I do still have faith that Erik ten Hag can fix it. I have complete faith that he will. There were always going to be setbacks, but I don't think anyone ever thought this, honestly. But again, I do think it's important to maintain perspective, and that is that our destiny, our fate is well and truly in our own hands still. This has not collapsed our season. This has not collapsed our position in the league. We are still in a good position in the league. Forget, title talk. And, honestly, that felt like a lot of people trying to make us believe, and it's not to say that people didn't, because ask KG, he believed. But at the same time, it felt like a lot of people saying, you're in a title race, right? You're in a title race. Say you're in a title race. Say you're in a title race for this very moment, for when it didn't work out, for when it didn't work out, to be like, I see, you need to humble yourselves. And again, I can absolutely humble myself, but from other fans of other clubs that have been anything but humble, I think is hilarious, almost, to be honest with you. But again, you can't lose. You can't lose in the way that we lost yesterday. Let's get into some quotes from... Actually, I said I was going to get into some comments here. Keith, one of our members, says, I'm hurting. I think we all are. Zoe says, Chelsea fans have the biggest nerve, I tell you. Well, some fans this morning are reveling in it because they've got nothing else to celebrate this season, i.e. Chelsea. They've celebrated their transfers, so they've got to celebrate something because they've got nothing to celebrate. What else have we got? The Reckoning says, this is what adds to the pain. The fact that it easily could have been more. We got hit for 7, with no reply. 6.5 of football. Second half, how? That performance hurts. And again, that's what is the crazy part of it too, is that for 40 minutes, and it doesn't matter because, again, we lost 7-0, but for 40 minutes, we did all right. We did okay, We did all right for 40 minutes. And to be honest, even before they scored that first goal, we could have and maybe should have been 1-0 up or even 2-0 up. Bruno Fernandes went close. Marcus Rashford decides to take a shot first time that maybe he could have taken a touch with. And again, that could have been 1-0. It could have been totally different, And even so, you go in at half-time 1-0. It's 1-0. I know it's Anfield, but it's 1-0. You're still in the game. Even at 2-0, even if in your mind you think it's game over or you don't believe, that to be honest, that speaks volumes. That even at 2-0, you gave up. I know it's a different opponent and all that kind of stuff, and it's a home game, and you could maybe say, oh, that's not a very fair comparison. But, Arsenal, top of the table, they played Bournemouth at home. They were 2-0 down. They didn't give up, because they had belief they were able to come back. And again, I know that's home and that's against a team that's bottom now. But at the same time, you have to believe, irrespective of whatever opponent it is, at what time of the game it is. If you go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, believe in your mind and in your heart you can come back. And I don't think the team believed they could come back after they went 1-0 down. Again, that is the definition of giving up, forfeit. And that just is inexcusable. Even if, sucker punch, right before halftime 1-0, right after halftime 2-0, you think game's gone. Even if you believe game's gone, you've got to keep fighting. You cannot stop. You cannot just give up. At any level of football, you can't do that. Let alone at Anfield, against your greatest rivals, in the Premier League. You can't give up. And as Ten Hag said, the key thing he said after the game, again and again and again, and we'll get into these quotes, is unprofessional. That's ultimately what it was. Unprofessional, because you can't do that. A couple of super chats here. Amanor says, can we talk about Bruno's petulance? I'm disgusted. We'll get into individual performances throughout the show. I appreciate the contribution. And Blue Dabadee has been a member for 8 months. Says, I blocked my sister and my cousin on Messenger last night. Yeah, a lot of people said not responding to stuff. Troy Superstar says, there's only 3 points, Owen, and we're still on for... Troy, not this morning, man. We're still on for winning the league. You watch. Except that Ten Hag was clueless. Players have been knackered for weeks. They are tired. Your super chat is all over the place. I mean, obviously, you're entitled to your own opinion. But we're winning the league, but Ten Hag is clueless. How can a clueless manager win the league? Troy. I agree with the first few words you said there. You know, that it is only 3 points. That is completely factually accurate. It is only 3 points. And as I said, our destiny is in our own hands, and we are still 7 points ahead of them in the league. And we still have a good gap when it comes to the Champions League spots, and we still won a trophy. And we can still be celebrating at the end of the season, going, what a successful season that was. And we can look back on the season and say, what a successful season we had, and we lost 7-0. So the season is not over, even though it feels like it today. Caramore says, it happened and we're all hurting. This result should make us prioritise the cups. If we win our Premier League games against the teams we should beat, top 4 is secured. We can still have a great season. Well, I agree in partial bits of that, Caramore. I think that I don't think the result should make us prioritise anything. I think that we should still do what we have been doing, and that's just trying to win every single game, because that's what's got us to this point. You shouldn't abandon the plan at this point. That's got us this far. You know, I think that if we decided to prioritize any competition over the other, that could lead to a detrimental downturn in the league. The important thing is, you know, we've got Real Betis on Thursday at home. Have to get a positive result there because the second leg's away. And the next game's Southampton at home, I believe, in the Premier League. Or is it Fulham? Either way, I think it's Fulham in the FA Cup. And then the next game actually is Newcastle away. So that's going to be a really tough one. And you're going to say, really get a result there. So, again, or was it? I'm already confused this morning. The fixtures are scrolling on the bottom of the screen, so I'll see what they are next. Who is it? Man United versus... I thought it was Southampton. Yes, Southampton's next in the league. Perfect game. perfect game to have next against a team that's struggling at home. Get a result, and again, just then move on, carry on. But I wouldn't say prioritise cup competitions over the league, because that is ultimately the bread and butter. Get that Champions League football. You've got a trophy in your pocket, and then move on to next season and continue this rebuild, which is what is going on at United at the moment. Troy Superstar says Ten Hag was fully responsible. Please accept this. Well, look, with Ten Hag, obviously he takes responsibility because he picked the side. I'm not sure though that any manager really, and this isn't to give him a way out, but I'm not sure that any manager expects any team he picks to fold in the way that he did, they did rather. I think that he made bad substitutions. When it got to 3-0 and he brought on the likes of like McTominay and all that kind of stuff, we got worse and we completely collapsed at that point. But I think maybe you could certainly say naivety. You know, when it's 3-0 or whatever, you say to your team, just shut up, or I don't know. Troy says also, this is a wake-up call we needed to go for the Premier League. We're not winning the Premier League, Troy. Honestly, I totally respect everyone's opinion, but you have to be wild to come out this morning and go, okay, now we're definitely going to win the league. I'm not even worried at all. Ten Hag must rotate wisely. Oh, man. Again, some of the quotes from Ten Hag. He said, quote, the second half was unprofessional. It can't happen and we have to talk about it. It was about the whole team. I saw 11 individuals losing their heads. That is not Manchester United. We have higher standards. I think we played a decent first half. One mistake in organisation for just before half time. Second half is just not us. It was not our standards. We didn't play as a team. It was unprofessional. Yes, I am angry, definitely. I'm surprised because I've seen the last weeks and months this team is resilient and has a winning attitude. Second half, we didn't have a winning attitude at all. We didn't stick to the plan. We didn't do our jobs. We didn't track back, and it was really unprofessional. We have seen in the past we can bounce back after Brentford, after Manchester City. This is definitely a strong setback and is unacceptable. I'm really disappointed and angry about it. It is a reality check. We have to take this strong. They didn't cooperate together anymore. They didn't fulfill their jobs. Bruno Fernandes also came out after the game and said, "It is very frustrating, disappointed, sad because it's a really bad result. We came here with a different mindset before the game. The first half was really good from ourselves. We had a lot of chances. We controlled most of the first half, I think. They didn't create that much. In the second half, we tried to go forward and score goals, and we lost a bit of balance. We gave too much space away against this kind of team. We have to avoid that. The games are coming thick and fast. We had setbacks in the past. We have to come back quickly again. This is what Manchester United are all about. We can go down, but we have to get back up. This is not what Manchester United is all about. Losing 7-0 at Anfield is not what Manchester United is all about at all." Ten Hag continued by saying, "I don't have an explanation. In the first half, we were quite in control. Second half, at the start, we gave 2 goals away. There was no team anymore. We didn't stick to the plan. There were 11 individuals. I don't know. It's really bad. I have given my opinion to the players. It was unprofessional. You always have to stick together as a team. We didn't do that. There was no discipline. You can have setbacks, but you have to stick together and do your job. We made the wrong decisions. That for me is unprofessional. I'm really disappointed and angry. We let our fans down. As a squad, as a team, you cannot allow this. You have to stick together and support each other, fight for each other. You have to defend. We didn't do that, and for me, that is really unprofessional. We have made a lot of progress, but you see what happens when you don't keep standards. What I have said in the dressing room is that this is unacceptable, but also it is only one game. We will bounce back." And when he spoke about the away fans, he said, quote, "That was tough and we really have to thank them. I can't blame them for leaving because it was a really bad performance. I'm ashamed myself for the fans today." Also, David De Gea, I think, is the only player to post something on social media. He said afterwards, he posted out a tweet, and it was a paragraph seemingly on a notes page. It said, "I know this message doesn't sit well on such a day. This was a disastrous moment for us, and these results shouldn't happen, especially with the journey we are all on. We have a duty to this club, a responsibility to represent the badge, but we have many opportunities to look ahead, many games coming fast, and we lock our focus on these." The problem is that they just, actions speak louder than words, and the actions were appalling, absolutely appalling. Al Caps says, "I had to call in sick. Diabolical performance." Al Caps had to call in sick. I think, to be fair, some people might have today. Troy says, "Arrogant Ten Hag players can't be resilient if knackered." That's Troy. You can't. You cannot use the fatigue thing as an excuse. You can't, because if you're tired, you lose 2 or 3-0. If when you give up, you stop running. I mean, they were not tired to the point of like physical failure, i.e. they stopped moving around. that is just crazy. And he also says, "Never start Fred before Sabitzer and players in positions." There you go. Let's get some reaction first, let's get to Flex from UVHQ. Here's what Flex had to say after that shambolic performance.
Still cannot find the words to describe what we've seen tonight, as Manchester United have been absolutely humiliated by 7-0 at Anfield. These type of results obviously don't happen very often, and when they do, they bring on anger, they bring in shock, they bring in disbelief, they can sometimes bring in overreaction, and you're trying to battle all those elements in your head to work out what this really means and what really happened tonight. At the end of the day, the first thing I'll say is I have to hold this. We have to hold this as a fan base. The players have to hold this. And every single one of them players dropped their heads today. Every single one of them players today gave up. Every single one of them players today threw the towel in. We can talk about tactics. We can talk about Bruno maybe starting on the left when he shouldn't. We can talk about why didn't Rashford start up front. You can talk about little tweaks like that. When it got to 2-0, why didn't Ten Hag do this and that? But as a professional footballer, as an amateur footballer playing Sunday League, when you cross the white line, You are signing, not even an unwritten contract, because these players have signed written contracts, but you are signing on the dotted line to say that you will give everything. There is a level that you will not go below. And that was like the Manchester United of old. The performance was. The only saving grace that we have now is the fact that we do have Erik ten Hag, and the fact that actually all that's gone before this game, which is real, the progress is real, is there. And Hayley touched on it in her match view, and a lot of other people have touched on it, that although this is the lowest of the low and this is embarrassing and this will hurt, this will hurt tonight, this will hurt tomorrow morning when all the media are talking about us and all the memes are happening, my phone's blowing off, you guys' phones blowing off, all your family, your friends, etc. This will hurt. And more importantly, it will hurt the players, right? But there is that feeling of, you know what? We can bounce back from this. I do have that, and I am deadly honest with you guys. As much as this hurts, I am thinking Erik ten Hag will fix it. Erik ten Hag will fix it. He has to fix it. Look, when you get a result as damning as this, now the focus switched to how damaged are the players from this, because that is, you know, I thought it couldn't get any worse than the Manchester City game. I didn't think it could get any worse than that. You know, 4-0 down at half-time, losing 6-3, couple of consolation goals, etc., etc. In the end, we lost by 3 goals, but it felt worse. This was worse.
I agree with what Flex is saying there. I think that the key thing for United now is just the next game, or the next couple of games, is to win. You know, not that it goes away, because that performance and that result, as I've said, that result will never ever go away. In 10 years' time, as much as we have to take this today, you know, and we have to hold this today, we're going to have to hold it in a decade, because the result will never ever, that is going to live in infamy forever. In the same way as other results do, and you point out to people and you say, oh, look at this result, and you put the picture, or even if this season we went on a freak and we won every single game and we won the league, which is not going to happen, by the way, the Liverpool fans underneath the comments would still put the picture of the scoreboard at Anfield and it would say 7-0, and we have to hold that. We do. That is the legacy of that performance and that result yesterday. But the important thing for United, and the only thing they can do now, if they win their next 2 games, then the conversation changes once again. If we beat Real Betis convincingly on Thursday, which is not going to be easy, I think they drew with Real Madrid last night, and particularly in the league against Southampton, if you beat Southampton, you're back on track. If you don't win those games, that's when you really should start to get worried, I think, because then you would start to say, okay, that defeat against Liverpool at Anfield psychologically has massively impacted us, and we've kind of gone off the rails here. If you win your next 2 games, okay, back on track. It happened. You acknowledge it happened. It can never happen again, but we've moved on. We've got back on track, and we're back to going in the direction that we should be going in. And again, the positive, the one positive, and it's not even a big one, is that it's just 1 game. That's it. That's the only positive, is that it is just 3 points dropped. You know, and, well, I suppose you could argue 4, considering the goal difference, that it really hurt us yesterday. And our goal difference wasn't good anyway. But at the same time, if you win your next 2 games, it's in the past, and you continue to build and continue to try once again build up momentum. And that's all that we can do, and that's all that United can do, and that's what should be drilled in. The next couple of performances, they have to really, really, really show up, and that's the key thing. A couple more super chats here. I want to make sure that I'm completely caught up. Here's one from Mark, saying, let's take stock, it's Liverpool and that's why it hurts so much. But as a snapshot of our season with our manager, now's the time to be a supporter of the greatest football club in the world. I feel sorry for Real Betis. Basically saying, again, there should be a reaction. I appreciate the contribution. Big time supporter, Mark, as always. M. Sati says, De Gea is to blame for these goals except the last. It was like a penalty shootout from his point of view, and attackers got very close. Wout was also okay, or has the least to blame, excuse me, because penalty shootout. I think the thing is, with even as a goalkeeper, even if you say I couldn't do much about them, and a couple he couldn't, but a couple he would say himself he should have done better. To a person, like, you can't concede 7 goals and as a goalkeeper go, wow, you know, I did everything I could, because You didn't. Nobody did on that pitch. Nobody has, the whole don't worry about it, mate. You really tried, because nobody did. Everyone to a person, they did. And that's again, nobody gets let off because of what happened yesterday, in my opinion. VK says, not sure if anyone realised that was probably our best 11 bar Vout. Who can Ten Hag drop after this performance? End of the day, a horrible 3 points dropped. And Troy says, and it's 3 points, 11 points different. Troy. And El Cap says, only Qatari money can cure this sickness. Well, I did see some reports this morning. Same reports, to be honest, that have been coming out over the weekend, which is basically we're getting into round two of these takeover talks, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe / Ineos, Sheikh Jassim, and I think one other private bidder has been invited to Old Trafford. They're going to be having talks in Old Trafford over the next couple of weeks. As they enter phase 2, they're going to be given access to more detailed financial information with which they're going to make a more concrete bid, a concrete offer for United. So we'll get more details about that within the next few days. And of course, we'll talk about it in all of the shows, all of the morning shows, all that kind of stuff. Remember today also as well, there is over 1,000 people watching, less than 150 likes. I understand that yesterday's performance is not really a likable performance, but if you could go about your way to press the like button, that would be very much appreciated. Later today, 12 p.m. Tactical View, Flex and Cam doing their best to try and break down the tactics behind that one yesterday. That's going to be coming out at 12. Then, of course, 6 p.m. we're going to have another edition of the Full View, full panel, and a lot to talk about. Certainly, that's going to be a tough one, a very, very tough one as well. And Al Cap says, Shaw was drinking whiskey at halftime. Luke Shaw, coming into that one, and we're going to get into individual players after the next clip. Luke Shaw, I saw yesterday. They were like, "Oh, he had a he had a late fitness test. He had a fitness test, and he passed. He was absolutely shambolic. That's the worst performance I've seen from Luke Shaw, I think, ever in a United shirt. And he's been very up and down throughout his career at United. Having a great season this season, a great season a few seasons ago. Last season had a poor season, but he was. It's his worst game in a Manchester United shirt. He was awful. You had awful. And again, so was everyone, but he was really, really bad. He was terrible yesterday. And again, not even... They were so bad, these players yesterday, that even sort of valid excuses you could give aren't even valid because it was that bad, if that makes sense, if you follow my logic there. I.e., you can't use fatigue as an excuse because a tired player loses 3-0, 4-0, they don't lose 7-0. You can't even use, they had a slight knock, because a slight knock, you lose 3-0, 4-0. And you get taken off. You don't lose 7-0. Like none of the excuses. Like they're not even valid. They're not. They're not valid at all. Let's get some more reaction. This time from Cam. Flex spoke to Cam after the game. Again, maybe a bit of a preview for today's Tactical View. Here's what Cam had to say.
No, I think until maybe 3-0,
you
can look at the tactics and what's gone wrong to get to that point. But after that, it's a point that no Man United team should ever get to, ever. Where everyone's just giving up on the pitch, not tracking back, putting half-hearted tackles in. The number of FIFA goals in that game is ridiculous. Just bouncing off 4 or 5 players. That can happen once a game. It can happen maybe twice a game if you're really unlucky. But if it happens 4 or 5 times, and it's happening pretty much every phase of play, outside of maybe it doesn't end in goal, but balls bouncing off everywhere, it's because players aren't putting their effort in. They're not putting themselves into the duels. They're bottling it every single time. And you do that in all your duels all over the pitch, this sort of thing's going to happen.
And there's going to be lots of angry reaction here. Sometimes, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm just envisaging overreaction and stuff. What is the correct reaction here? How should we be feeling? How should we analyse this? Is it a case of quickly put this to bed and move along? The smirking scousers there, I can see, and they're grilling Gary Neville here. I don't even know what they're saying. But look, they're all giving it. The fact is we're still third in the Premier League. We're above Liverpool. We look like we've got top 4 there. We're fighting on all fronts, different fronts for different cups. But that was unacceptable and a disgusting performance, one that will live in history. How do you move on from it is what my question is, I suppose.
Look, I think what we've got to be conscious of is that this sort of thing can happen with the system. With the way we're playing at the moment, as we've said on lots of the tactical views, Erik Ten Hag sets us up to be really transitional, have lots of duels going on the pitch, lots of 1v1 battles. And if players are off it against opponents who are good and they're on it, if 5 or 6 players lose their 1v1 battles, you're going to get torn apart. And if other players are off it as well, if the player loses their battle, someone else won't be sharp enough to cover. And we saw that time and time again, where one player doesn't win their challenge, and there's no one there to cover, no one sharp enough, switched on enough to react. The first goal was a really good example. Ten Hag often talks about his rules and principles. We know the wingers sort of have a hybrid pressing thing where they'll sometimes stay on the fullback, sometimes they'll go and press the centre-back. When they go on the centre-back, it's often our fullback that presses up on the opposition fullback. So you see, Dalot got drawn out to Robertson. Nobody else reacted. Fred, I don't know what Fred's doing. He's half-tracked Gakpo, then he suddenly decides to run wide, leaving a massive gap for that ball to come inside and split him. Varane's not really reacted sharp enough. He could have reacted a little bit quicker. But even when Robertson cut in initially, if Weghorst's a natural midfield player, maybe he sort of switches off from his man orientation for a second and just drops in to fill that space. There's so many individual things that have gone wrong, and when you have a system that is so dependent on individual battles, this sort of thing can and will happen.
Big up, Cam, as always. I've seen some interesting comments, actually, and we'll get to some super chats in just a second, because we've still got quite a few to get to. But I've seen some comments saying, how can you just move on? You know, how because that's all you can do. That's all you can do yesterday. You can dwell on a performance like that, but if you dwell too long on a result like that, that will ruin your season. The only thing you can do is reflect in terms of, i.e., what went wrong and the professionalism. But the best and most important thing you can do is win your next game. That is it. And I know the day after, that's not what we want to hear. What we want to hear as fans, we want to hear what we heard last time after Brentford, that Erik Ten Hag, he ran the players into the ground the next day and they had to make up all of the running, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen today, because we've played a game every 3 or 4 days for the last 2 or 3 months. So you cannot run the players like he did against Brentford. All you can do, again, is win the next game and continue going forward. Because, as I said to the Liverpool fans, and I know there's a lot of Liverpool fans in the chat this morning saying Erik Ten Hag or reveling in it, and you know you're absolutely right to. Of course you are, because we'd be doing the same things. If we won 7-0 against Liverpool, my goodness me, we'd be rubbing it in, and they're absolutely right to do that. But as I said earlier on during the show, that if I was a Liverpool fan, my fear would be is that this has to count for something, because make no mistake, if it counts for nothing this season, if you don't qualify for the top 4 or you don't win a trophy, you can have the 7-0, you can have the history, and again, that's great. You can print the t-shirts and do whatever you want to do. But if it means nothing at the end of the season, what would you rather have? You know, I think it's ironic that they're saying to us, you know, humble yourselves. We've been told this is the best team in the world for however many seasons. So both teams have to almost manage themselves after that, one would think, right? If you're United, you need to bounce back. You just need to win your next game, and you have to again move on as quickly as you can, because that's all you can. You cannot dwell on this. And if you're Liverpool, you would say, okay, make sure it means something, because if you were Liverpool and you went and lost your next game, what does it mean? You know, that would be the key thing as well. So, you know, we'll see what happens for the remainder of the season. Got a ton of super chats here to get to as well. I think I'll go back to SK. Here we go. Or was it even before that? Oh, it's Troy says, this is Arsenal losing 3 games or drawn 4. Troy still says we're going to win the league, which is hilarious. SK says, hard loss. Erik Ten Hag needs to burn this feeling into their souls. This is not acceptable. I'm still positive we have Erik Ten Hag. Mentality needs to be worked on. Someone says, this league is an anomaly. Liverpool and Chelsea in transition. Well, that was the thing as well that really disappointed me as well, is that if this had happened a few years ago, I'd have gone, well, Liverpool, they at the time, they absolutely were one of the best teams in Europe. No doubt, or the world. No doubt about it. But this is a Liverpool team in transition. This is a Liverpool team that coming into yesterday's game was 6th, and we've been saying how poor they've been at points this season. And this is a United side that's since the World Cup lost 1 game against Arsenal. So to put in that level of performance, that's why it's even more disappointed, because again, I said after the game, I can't say Liverpool didn't play well, because of course they did. You don't win 7-0 without playing well. But at the same time, we made it so easy for them. I mean, to talk about giving up, there was no fight. If this was a boxing match, they'd have waved it off after it was 3-0, because we threw on our own towel. Continue saying, we're also not scoring enough goals. Have you seen the goal difference? The goal difference is shambolic at the moment. I don't think we're that good. Well, I disagree with the last part of that, because I saw Graham Souness try and give that on Sky Sports yesterday. United have been getting away with it. You don't get away with it for that period of time. You don't win trophies. You don't beat Barcelona over 2 legs, and we should have won that first leg away from home as well by getting away with it. That is nonsense. Now, Gary Neville, what he was also saying afterwards, saying it's a freak result. Somewhat, it's a freak result, as in 7-0 is a lot, but these sort of big batterings aren't too much of a freak result, because they have happened this season. So you can't describe it as a freak result. But I think for Graham Souness to say United have been getting away with it, I think is crazy. That is already, it's almost a record, isn't it? It's revisionist history after like a week, because they were saying, they got away with it in the final. No, they won the final. History remembers winners and losers. And yesterday we lost. As I said, like this result will live in infamy, and we will never live it down, because it will always be shoved right up our ass, as it should be, because we would do the same thing to them. At least I speak for myself. At least I can be honest with that. I saw Liverpool fans last week saying the Carabao Cup didn't matter, even though that last year when they won it, it did matter. So of course we've got to hold it. Of course they're going to take the mick out of us. We'd be doing the same. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But like I said, make it count for something. Troy says this was just fatigue while the panic. I don't think it was fatigue. VK, big up VK's gifted 5 United View memberships. Big up VK, long-time supporter, member, moderator on the channel. The people that got gifted memberships were RJ, Harvey, Soki, Rai, and Z6. All got gifted memberships as well. Also gifted 2 more memberships as well, actually, from VK. Big up VK. Troy Superstar says, very good players win titles, not managers. We have great players. Managers win titles, Troy. Plenty of teams that haven't been particularly filled with amazing players have won titles because of managers and teams. It's not about individuals. Troy, now you're getting ridiculous. Not unreasonable for Qatari to consider a managers. That is ridiculous. The thing is, I know Troy is actually a real person because I've seen him on KG's channel. That's the crazy thing. VK says 7 membership gifts simply for the wonderful people who will show up for Match Day Reloaded. Win 3 trophies, and this loss will be a distant memory. Big up VK, long-time supporter of the channel, as I mentioned, moderator, gifting out the memberships, and big up the UV community again. I know it's tough. I know that on a day like today, you don't really, if you're a United fan, you probably don't really want to watch that much football content. If you're an opposition fan, then you come in and laugh and all that kind of stuff. But we continue. We'll be here regardless, through rain, shine, 7-0, 6-3s, 4-0s, or winning Carabao Cups, or hopefully getting in the top 4 and winning other trophies this season. We will be here regardless. So, and again, a season is not won and lost with 1 game. It's across 38, and we'll see what happens come the end of the season, right? Because I'd be very interesting to see for what happens come the end of the season as well. Let's get some more reaction, this time from Kenny. I spoke to Kenny after the game. Here's what he had to say.
Exactly. And Martinez today was looking for a fight again. Do you know what I mean? It was, and how Shaw stayed on the field, I don't know. How Shaw stayed on the field, I don't know. And Bruno, very, very lucky. Shaw has been the best fullback in Europe, the best left back for a season now. Today, no, sorry. But of all the days to do it, you can do it against Brighton away and get away with it. You can do. You cannot do it at Anfield.
Yeah,
you cannot. This is
certainly
the biggest
not.
game of the season for Manchester United. It always has, and it always will. And if Manchester City to go on to in the next leagues, next 10 Premier Leagues, the game will never be as big as Liverpool and Manchester United, because we collectively have dominated English football for 50 years. And it's massive. And I'm bitterly, bitterly embarrassed as a Man United fan today. I really am. Because individuals have let our team down.
Mm.
Individuals have let our team down, and they've let us down badly. Not with playing badly. You know, you can have an off game, but you don't start kicking out. Because the next thing what happens is Fernandes gets sent off, Shaw gets sent off, you're down to 9 men, and then you're missing them for the next 3 games, and all of a sudden your season is over. Because we cannot replace Fernandes. We cannot replace him. Because on his day, he's played every minute of every game. Shaw has been as good as any left back in Europe. But you lose them 2 players, and you could have lost them today. You could have lost Martinez today as well. The Reds went. And Ten Hag should have had them off early. He should have had them off early because we could all see it.
Yeah.
Everybody in the ground knew that Bruno was one and Shaw was that far off. Millimetres off getting a red card. We can't afford a red card. We cannot afford red cards for our players because we don't have somebody to step into Bruno's place. So Bruno needs sitting down with Ten Hag, showing that again and saying that if you want to be Man United captain, that is, I mean, fans won't support that. No. Fans won't support that behaviour. As much as we love Bruno and as much as we want to see him as captain and as much as we was proud when he lifted that trophy last year, you do not have that from a Manchester United captain. It's unhappy.
Big up, Kenny, as always. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of people talking about Bruno and his behaviour yesterday. And look, Kenny is right. It was unacceptable the way that Bruno was behaving. It was unacceptable how a lot of people were behaving yesterday. Bruno was absolutely part of it. As a captain, you have to represent the club and the team. And I saw Gary Neville say during the game that Bruno had been waving to come off, and then I think he subsequently said that he didn't say that when he did say that. So I don't understand that, and that is a very because he had some really strong words for him after the game as well. And I think you have to be really, really careful about what you say and what you imply that people are trying to do during the game. Bruno Fernandes, like I said, his behaviour yesterday I thought was awful. You know, it's one thing to be a shithouse to get a result, but it's another thing to be like 3 or 4-0 down and then be petulant and be just, again, not representative of what Manchester United is about. And I credit him for coming out and doing the interview after the game because he should. If you're going to be a captain of Manchester United, that's what you should do. But his behaviour was not right. And again, the behaviour of every United player was not right yesterday. You know, it's not good enough. It's unacceptable. Nathan's been a member for 7 months. Oh, the number 7 keeps coming up, Nathan, man. Says, to be honest, Owen, I feel like I need the content to help me get through today. I'm in a bad way. This one hurts. It's about the comeback from now. Glory, glory, Man United. Appreciate the support, Nathan, as always, one of our long-time members there. And again, I know I keep saying it, and apologies if I am repeating myself when it comes to it, but you know, it is, and it's not what people want to hear, but it is about just getting on to the next game. It really is. And I know people go, oh, here we go. Let's go. We go again, FC and all that kind of stuff. But that is the only thing that is going to make us fans feel a smidge better. And this is going to hurt for ages, for the longest time. The only thing that's going to make us feel better is winning the next game and the game after that and finishing the season with something to shout about, you know. And Chris says there, the result is terrible and we can't just forget it. And that's, I think you might be, and maybe I'm not getting my point across. What I'm trying to say is that we will never forget today because we will never be allowed. We will never be allowed to forget today because people will always throw this result in our face, and we have to hold it because it's not good enough. So we can move on, but others won't, and that's fine. But if you were a manager or your group of players, what you would say to them is, don't, you know, like you gave up yesterday, don't give up on this season now. Don't give up on what you've achieved, because if you do that based off yesterday's result, then you shouldn't even be playing you shouldn't even be playing football. What you have to do, whether we like it or not, whether all of the fans, you know, can hold grudges, and Lord knows I can as well, and we'll never forget yesterday. What you have to, you just have to move on to the next game because you're forced to, because that's how life works. That's how football works. If come Thursday we lose against Real Betis, and comes I would be playing on Sunday. Come Sunday, we lose to Southampton at home because we're still thinking about last week. That's even worse. All you can do now, you can't control the past. It's happened. Not to just brush it aside and say that's it, but at the same time, what you've got to do is you've just got to win the next games. Because at the end of the season, if you're in the top 4 and you've qualified for the Champions League and we've won a trophy, here's hoping for a couple more. You never know what could happen. Then we'd say this season was massively successful, and we won't focus on that one game. If anything, we'll say, "Wow, that season was successful," and in a couple of parts of it, we got absolutely smashed. The players have to move on. If they focus on this game for the next 3 or 4 weeks, then the season really could be off the rails, and that is a massive problem. That's mentality even more. One day and then focusing on that day for weeks. You cannot do that. Cannot do that. What they have to do is move on. And again, the day after, fans don't want to hear that. And come the end of the season, hopefully we look back on yesterday's result like we've looked back on some of the others this season, and we go, "Fuck, that was awful, and that was the worst. That was the worst of the worst. That was the lowest of the low." But we reacted well, and we had a successful season. That's all we can do. SK says, no one is saying forget it. We are saying remember it, learn from it, and use it. But again, and I'm not saying forget it either. I mean, saying move on is not saying forget about it. Because they'll never be allowed to forget about it. There'll be chants about it every time we go to Anfield now. They'll be doing chants about it. But you have to move on. You have to, and you're right, absolutely. Learn from it, use it to fuel further success. But my point being is, in the immediate future, all they can do is win the next game, and particularly in the competition that they just lost in the Premier League, they just got to win the next game. And that might be oversimplifying it, but that's what you've got to do. Troy says, okay, if we win the Premier League, all will be forgotten. Troy, not going to win. What next? We got to get a couple more reaction here. Here's DJ. DJ spoke to Flex after the game. Here's what DJ had to say.
I can't lie. Bit of PTSD's kicking in. It's reminding me kind of the woes of last season. We didn't really expect this from this team. We were saying it on the stream that we thought we've turned the corner, and today's a stark reminder that even though with the addition of a few players, this is at the core still the same team from last year. And I can't lie, I'm emotional. I'm just so angry right now to even think that we've gone to Anfield, for all the fans that have travelled there. And I know Manchester to Liverpool or wherever they're coming from isn't too far, but still to have that level of performance is shocking. And I think it's really disrespectful to the fan base to go and hold 7. And people are blaming Ten Hag. I don't blame the manager. The reason why I don't blame the manager, because that team has been winning games and that team has been effective. We could say fatigue, cool, but you have to pull yourself together for Anfield.
Like you said there, I mean, there's little things you can nitpick and say, oh, why did Bruno go on the left? That doesn't normally... Little tactical things, but fundamentally, as a professional footballer, when you cross that white line, that's not on Eric Ten Hag. Yeah. How them players capitulated, and yes, you could say you could have stemmed the flow by doing this sub at this time. At the end of the day, those guys as professionals were disgusting and let themselves down, didn't they?
Yeah, it was just keyword disgusting. That's how I felt sick just watching them just capitulate at the back. And then we started seeing sort of the petulance started to kick in. Luke Shaw, I'm naming Luke Shaw there, Bruno as well. Our leaders didn't stand up today. And we got some big leaders in that team that for majority of the last few games have been standing up tall and pumping their chest. Where was the high fives today? Where was the belief? Where was the trying to bring the players back up? There was none of it. I didn't see not one United player do that at all, Flex, in this game. And, we talked about Anfield being a hostile environment. It's probably the most hostile environment for Manchester United to come into. And today we didn't show a good account of ourselves. And I think my worry is what is the psychological damage now going into the next.
Big up DJ, as always, speaking after the game there with Flex. Another super chat here from Zay Miassi. Mum's credit card, bang, out on the table. Says Liverpool could finish higher. I think Liverpool are back. Come on, you Gunners. You relied too much on Casemiro and Rashford. I think that every team relies on their star players, and our star players did not show up yesterday. Rashford, I mean, again, I'm even really remiss to say that they look like they were injured. I mean, you could argue that Casemiro looked uncomfortable, Rashford did, but even playing with knocks, you don't lose 7-0, so I don't even really want to say that. But, of course we relied on Casemiro and Rashford. They're our two most informed players, and we expected them to show up. Arsenal rely on their informed players. They rely on Bukayo Saka, and they rely on Thomas Partey. Lord knows, when Partey doesn't play, we hear about it enough. In the same way, when it comes to Casemiro not playing, we say, oh, Casemiro wasn't playing. So, I mean, Liverpool finishing higher, again, look, if that was the case, that would have to be a 7-point swing. And as I've said during the stream today, and I think that's the thing I would say to the Liverpool fans, and I know there are a lot watching this morning, but I'd say make it count, because if they don't get in the top 4, or they don't win anything this season, imagine all that for nothing. Imagine all that for nothing. And for them to say, oh, yeah, you were so arrogant. I remember last season when this same group of Liverpool fans were saying they were going to win the quadruple. They're laughing at us, saying, oh, how could you believe you were in a title race? How could you believe you were going to win a quadruple last season? And how did that work out for you? You were saying as well that you were going to win the Champions League final. How did that work out for you last season? So I think the irony of ironies about them saying us to be humble this season is hilarious, to be honest with you, or humble for this game, I think is crazy. Let's get some more reaction, this time from Hayley. Flex spoke to Hayley after the game.
I can take defeats, but defeats like that is disgraceful. I mean, it was an unprofessional performance. We started all right. And I feel like in games like this, you have to have so much care for the ball. Bruno and Anthony, I think they had possession between them like 80-something times. They gave the ball away between them 43 times. You cannot do stuff like that at Anfield. They will punish us, and they punished us, and we got to hold that L. It's like the players who I thought would never let us down, the leaders that we have now, let us down. And if your leaders are letting you down, the soft bellies are going to let you down. They're following suit. It's like you look to your parents for guidance. If your parents can't even protect you, there's no way you're protecting yourself. And that's what happened today. We got ripped to shreds. Like the jeans I'm wearing, ripped to shreds. It's horrible.
And that's the thing, innit? You try and think how that happened, because there's one thing breaking down, oh, that was a moment of brilliance from this player, or we just weren't at the races today. It happens, we move on. Like when we lost to Arsenal. When we lost to Arsenal, it was in the last minute. We fought to the end. We gassed out near the end. You go, you know what? Little blip, we keep it moving. That was unacceptable. And that's, how do you move on from that?
Was that a blip? I pray to God that's a blip, because the last thing we need is for all the hard work that we have put in this season to go to shreds over that.
And not get in the top 4 sort of thing.
They're 5 points behind us. I think we got a game in hand over them, but they're 5 points behind us. We all thought top 4 was wrapped up. Me, even myself, banging on about title this and title that. The optimistic side of me is very hurt right now, and that's okay. Sometimes in life, you got to hold L's. Right now, we're holding the L's, but the team let us down, but we still back them. Ten Hag didn't do the best tactics today, but yet we still back him.
Big up Hayley, as always, talking to Flex afterwards. Zayn Miassi, Mum's credit cards right back out on the table, says, we have Trossard, Balogun, Jesus if Saka is out, and Jorginho if Partey can't play. Who do you have? Well, obviously, I could say the players that we have, but I mean, I've spoken to Arsenal fans, and they have told me that no Manchester United player would even get in Arsenal's team. So there's no point me saying, Casemiro, Rashford, Bruno Fernandes. Again, even people like Varane and Martinez, apparently because of one bad game yesterday and an awful game, they're awful now. They're terrible now. Troy Superstar says, last thing, have you seen the fixture between Arsenal and City? Relax, we're not winning the league, Troy. We're not. What we can do again, is finish in the top 4. We've got a trophy already in our pockets, and who knows if we win another one. If we get that, that's a successful season. And again, I would say to the Liverpool fans, enjoy it today, because we would be enjoying it as well. But come the end of the season, make it mean something, right? Make it mean something, make it count, because if it doesn't, then it's just a result. But it's a result that's going to live forever, and it's a result that's going to live in infamy, and we're going to have to hold it. And ultimately, look, we've got to move on to the next game. We've got to move on to the next game. We've got to win the next game in the league, and then we'd still be 7 points ahead of Liverpool, right? You know, that's all that we can do. But there you go, guys. Look, I know it's been a tough one this morning. It's not been easy. And look, it's not going to be easy for the remainder of the week. All we can do, like I said, is move on to the next game, support the team, and still have faith. I mean, we can't let yesterday, as demoralizing and as tough as it is, we can't let yesterday just completely remove any semblance of hope that we have that things are turning around at Manchester United, right? Of course, it's absolutely humiliating. It's a pathetic excuse of a performance that actually started okay. The lack of fight and professionalism, it's inexcusable. The players should be ashamed. However, myself anyway, I believe Erik ten Hag will make it right. You know, this season can absolutely still be a success. The top 4 is still in our own hands. We're 7 points, ironically enough, ahead of the team that beat us by 7 goals yesterday. We've got the Carabao Cup, our first trophy in 6 years. We're in the FA Cup quarter-final with a home tie. We're in the last 16 of the Europa League. Progress sometimes is, you know, 1 step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or in yesterday's case, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Sometimes it's not linear, you know, sometimes it's up and down, and yesterday was an all-time low, certainly, but we've got to continue to have faith, and as I said, we will be here come rain, shine, title victories or title cup victories, or devastating defeats. And that's all we can do. That's all we can do. Anyway, guys, have the best Monday that you possibly can, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.